Saturday mornings, 8:30 Eastern. Dixie Football Nation is back and better than ever. We've got Tony Agolini, Matt Carr, Tones Ariola, Bobby and Angelo, along with Mac McGee this fall. Dixie Football Nation heads to the gridiron, talking ACC, SEC, the Big Ten, and all the big games throughout the college football land. That's Dixie Football Nation, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, Saturday mornings on the Armchair Quarterback Show's YouTube channel, going live. Or catch the instant replay. Calling all baseball fans, Yankee fans, Red Sox fans, the Tampa Bay Rays. It's the Catbird Seat. Monday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern, only on Armchair Quarterbacks Show's YouTube Live. We dive into the American League East, point of views of the fans. Teamus and the Red Sox, Angelo and his New York Yankees, and Florida's own Mac McGee's Tampa Bay Rays. It's the Catbird Seat. Monday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern, only on Armchair Quarterbacks Show's YouTube Live. Get your Sunday football morning started off right with the Handicappers on Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern. Your Sunday morning kickoff show where we tackle your NFL lines out in the desert, a 61.2% win rate over the last 6 years. Against the spread, over, under, money line, you name it. And we dive into the world of fantasy football, year-long and your DFS payouts. Your only true Southern football kickoff show that talks the spreads in Vegas, your DFS and fantasy, and your year-long quest to win that fantasy football championship. Only on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel. It's the Handicappers on Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern. Sundays, all NFL season long.
It's important to remember the value of taking time for ourselves to do the things that help us grow and explore, like learning something new. And now with the Great Courses Plus, it's never been easier to experience the joys of learning. The Great Courses Plus offers thousands of streaming videos that cover hundreds of fascinating topics, from World War II to choosing the perfect wine. You can even take a course on the U.S. government or dealing with stress and anxiety. And because the Great Courses Plus partners with world-class professors and experts, you're always receiving thoroughly vetted, high-quality content from every lecture. Plus, you can watch or listen anytime, anywhere with the Great Courses Plus app. So take a little time for you. Sign up for the Great Courses Plus today for a free month of unlimited access. Visit thegreatcoursesplus.com/radio to get started. That's thegreatcoursesplus.com/radio.
The Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live, covering the AFC South and NFC South along with the rest of the NFL. Subscribe and like us today. Your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
It all starts with just one thing. Get to know your local beekeeper. You can make sure they don't use chemicals in the hive, that they only sell surplus honey, plus locally produced honeys have a smaller carbon footprint. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
You'll do anything to stay healthy. So isn't it time to think about your water? Aquasana water filters remove contaminants other filters don't, like lead, bacteria, viruses, and pesticides. Up to 99% of 88 contaminants, while leaving vital minerals you need like potassium, calcium, and magnesium. Visit waterfilter.com now and use promo code RADIO to get 50% off. That's waterfilter.com, promo code RADIO for pure, delicious water and the ultimate peace of mind. Aquasana, better water, better you.
Well, I got in big trouble at school today.
Oh, man, what happened?
Well, I was sitting in class in my chair, and the teacher asked Sarah, "What do we get from chickens?" And Sarah says, "Well, we get eggs." And the teacher says, "That's correct." And then the teacher asked Thomas, "What do we get from pigs?" And Thomas says, "Well, we get bacon." And then the teacher says, "Well, that's correct." And then she asked me, and she said, "Donnie, what do we get from a big fat cow?" And I said, "Well, Teach, I think we get homework."
Armchair.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good morning, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Surprisingly, we've actually got a pretty full slate for a Thursday in Major League Baseball. It's Cardinals and Pirates who will play the season without their star running back, Cam Akers, after he tore his Achilles tendon in a workout before training camp. In Akers' absence, Darrell Henderson Jr. has been taking over the starting role, but the depth on the Rams roster was lacking behind the third-year pro. Second-year man Xavier Jones, an undrafted free agent in 2020, and rookie seventh-round pick Jake Funk have competed throughout the preseason. Jake Funk was one of the guys that went viral as many fantasy football prognosticators were telling you to draft him, that he could be the next Christian McCaffrey. This right here smells like that ain't the case. A federal magistrate has decided that changes by the Philadelphia Phillies to their Philly Fanatic last year were sufficient to allow its continuance by the club. In a 91-page decision, 91 pages over the Philly Fanatic, U.S. Magistrate Sarah Netburn in Manhattan decided that creators of the Philly Fanatic had demonstrated the mascot had been registered as an artistic sculpture under copyright laws. Netburn recommended that the New York company that created the Fanatic be credited as sole authors of the Fanatic, and said the company had the right to terminate the Phillies' 1984 agreement. The Phillies unveiled the redesign of the mascot in February 2020, a new look featuring flightless feathers rather than fur-colored arms, or a bunch of other junk that you really don't give a damn about. Netbird cited a 1991 U.S. Supreme Court decision, Feist Publications v. Rural Telephone Service Company. The short of it is, the Phillies declined comment on the situation as it is an ongoing litigation, but the Fanatic will continue to be used by Philadelphia. And that's your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Stay tuned for the Armchair Quarterbacks radio show and YouTube Live. Please like, subscribe, and share our show today. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for sports talk, live from the First Coast. Good morning. It's time to wake up, y'all. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Show. We're here weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 Central, the Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for Southern sports talk. Good morning. I'm Mac McGee, and I don't know much, but I know one thing. Fantasy football season is here. The draft season is here. We're going to do something we have not done all year long on the morning show. We're going to do a live auction draft, and we're going to walk you through the process of that. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Keep it locked in here to CBS Sports Radio and our YouTube channel, The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for sports talk here on the First Coast.
Well, if you stand and block the screen, you may just lose your life. And that goes for all 30 friends and 30 friends' wives.
Yeah, howdy, hi, top of the morning to you. Welcome to the Armchair Quarterbacks radio show. I'm Mac McGee, and we're starting this a little early, mainly because that is the way that the draft rooms are set up. I wasn't able to find one that started exactly a few minutes after our show normally begins at 8:30 Eastern. So
With that being said, I'm going to go over and look at the draft room right now. We are just a few minutes away from it starting up. 4 minutes away as I look right here. And I know normally this is when we come on, so a lot of y'all are probably like thrown off like, where was the take me out to the ball game? It all got messed up because I thought that they would have them staggered more, and they don't have them staggered. So essentially we're waiting for this to begin. I am going to hit you with some take me out to the ball game type stuff, and we'll continue to talk the world of sports during this draft. So if you're not a fantasy footballer, don't worry, we're going to talk some sports. It's not just going to be all fantasy, but I did think that we need to do one auction, a true auction, and it's a lot easier to do this when you're flying solo and you can explain why you're doing things and whatnot. So that's why we're going to do it this way today. John will be back on the kickoff of the NFL season. That is what we are looking for there. So tomorrow we are going to have Justin will be with us. Matt Carr will be with us. The morning warm-up show, the Gators and Golf on Fridays. Tony is going to be with us, and we're going to give his college football predictions because we won't be here next Friday. I'm going to be on vacation. Essentially, we're getting ready for the college football season, and we're going to be out of town on the date in question. And so we won't be here next Thursday. We won't be here next Friday. We won't be here Labor Day, and we won't be here Tuesday. But I'm planning on getting some stuff dropped for you, some content that will be very relevant to those days. So we will have shows dropping, just won't be here live. It's too hard to get all that taken care of. Okay, so we had Major League Baseball yesterday. Well, let's go ahead and dive into that because that really is heating up. Look, if you're a fan of any of these teams in the playoffs right now, you are absolutely glued to your televisions. I was last night, and my Braves weren't even playing. Now, my Rays were, but the Braves weren't even playing. So I watched the St. Louis Detroit game yesterday, mainly just for interest's sake on that. Plus, I did take the Tigers plus the 1.5. Bang! Hit that one. I do think the Detroit Tigers are going to be a team that if they make a couple of additions in the offseason, I think they're going to be a little scarier than a lot of people think in 2022. I see good things out of this kid, Screwball. Casey Mize, obviously, is a very good pitcher. And honestly, I think they've got a good little nucleus, good little nucleus. And remember, they've got Torkelson down in the minors. I expect him to be up next year. They've got a lot of good parts down in the minor system. But Detroit also has the ability, because they are a major market, to go out and get some real components. And I think they were waiting until they felt like that they could compete to do that. And I think you will see this. Don't be surprised if Justin Verlander ends back up in a Detroit Tiger uniform before it's all said and done. Remember, his contract's coming to an end. He'll be coming off Tommy John next year, and we'll see what happens, but that is my long-term prediction. Before it's all said and done, Verlander ends up back in the Detroit. All right, the draft is now loading, so I'm going to share the screen here in a second. So you're welcome. You don't have to see my ugly mug. And now also something else, if you're fantasy football, for footballers, we had a couple of videos that dropped last night going over the do's and don'ts of the running backs and quarterbacks last night. And then later on this morning at 11:30 and at noon, I'm going to send out the rest, which are the tight ends and the wide receivers. I believe those are the two that I have not released. So all that's going to be available to you to look to you can basically get the reaction on whether or not you think, I know what the hell I'm talking about, but been playing fantasy sports for over 30 years, have been doing this my entire life, essentially. Ever since fantasy sports came around, I was one of the very first in on it, started playing fantasy football at a very young age as well. Baseball was the first one that I played. It was the first one that was invented. And then I jumped on fantasy football in the late 80s and have played ever since. So I've seen it evolve. I see where it goes from year to year and time to time. And usually have a pretty good team. Sure, I'll have some duds here and there, but I do play in a lot of leagues, so I know at least one of my teams is going to be good. Because the one thing that I don't do, I'm going to go ahead and kill that. We'll get into the first quarter. The one thing I don't do if I'm in multiple leagues, which I always am, I never, and I mean I never, go with the same dudes over and over and over again in every league. Because it's suicide. If you're going to do that, you might as well not play in more than one league. Because essentially what you're telling yourself is if you're going to have essentially the same roster across the board is, if one guy gets injured, man, it's a wrap. And so we know, of all the sports, football, that's why fantasy football will drive you nuts, is because of the injuries. Obviously in the bye weeks as well. It's much different than any other fantasy sport in those two aspects. Now, the one thing that stays the same across no matter what fantasy sport you've ever done, if you've never really done a quote-unquote fantasy league and you're thinking, I think this is something I want to get involved in, something I want to try. I apologize for that. I always forget to turn that damn sound off, and Yahoo does not have it set up where you can adjust the sound, which drives you nuts. But anyways, the draft is starting. We're going to continue to talk sports, but the one thing that I will say that is the same with every single team, every single sport, and every single fantasy walk of fantasy is you've got to be paying attention to not just your draft, but you also got to pay attention to the waiver wire afterwards. That's where the seasons are won. So it starts off, I've got the 8th nomination. Nominations don't realistically matter, but I'm going to walk you through my process. So Christian McCaffrey sitting there at 27. And look, if anyone thinks I'm going to let Christian McCaffrey go this damn low, come on, can we get off this already? Can we go ahead and get to the 50? I guess someone else already beat me to that. Now, McCaffrey's going to go into the 70s. He just is. I'm going to keep running this up because he is going to go into the 70s, and that's not where I'm going to go today. Now, there are some leagues where I may do that, but I'm going to go ahead and let someone else have Christian McCaffrey here because realistically, just for the argument of what we're doing today, if I go and blow my wad $75 on the first player, this is a 15-man roster, $200 limit, which is pretty standard. Some of the leagues that I'm in, we have a little bit wider of a roster. We have just a tad more. I've had to play with that over the years. At first, we would put several more dollars in the pool. And then we realized how unrealistic that was, that you really just need to put a few more dollars in the pool because most of your guys at the end of the draft are being drafted for $1. So you should really keep an eye on that. All right. The next thing that I'll get into as Darrell Henderson's getting nominated, I don't think so. Let me see here. Brian's I'm going to try to answer questions as well. How much money do you start off with? So in this league, you start off with 200, and you can see that on the screen, Brian. If you look over here, you can see the players, and then you can see the money. So the guy that went out and got McCaffrey, he now has the unknown guy, whatever that means. He has $129 now because he spent 71 on McCaffrey, and he has 1 of 15 taken over. So one of his 15 guys on his roster is
So you can keep an eye on that. You can say, okay, this guy's already spent $71. Now, Darrell Henderson was going pretty low there. Someone finally moved him up on the budget. The other thing that you can look at, and I'm not going to drag it over the entire draft because it kind of messes with the screen, but you can see where an average salary, a projected salary, the bye week, all this information is right in front of you. I'm going to move that back over because I like to have a pretty large window for everyone to be able to see. But you can pull all that up. You can also, if I hit on this unknown guy, check this out. You can, if you pull on his team as they're fighting over Henry, and I'm not going to put a bunch of money on Henry. You can see what his budget is. You can see what his average offer is, which you can't really pay attention to that. But this is the number that you can keep an eye on a guy. Look at his max offer. So when it gets much deeper in the draft, you can see that a guy's max offer might only be like $23, and you've got enough money to outbid him. And so that's what you keep an eye on. So the average offer, don't even pay attention to that. It's just, I mean, it's worthless. All right. So let's go ahead and slide this back over. By the way, Brian's referring to the fact that we're going to do a live draft on YouTube tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern. I'm going to try to come on a few minutes before to get set the stage. Anyone can jump into the Zoom room that's in the league. Just hit me up and I'll send you the Zoom room link. Do it before the draft starts. If you hit me up in the middle of the draft, there's a pretty good chance I'm not going to pay attention to my phone. I just, come on, get your head out of your ass and get this information. You've got 24 hours. Come on. But the point of this, okay, so you got Pitts here going for the $22. Now his projected salary is 22. His average salary is 10.8. He's going much higher than he should because someone nominated him early. And you'll see that in players. You'll see players you'll spend much more money on them than they normally do because someone's in love with them, or someone isn't in love with them and they're trying to jack the price up. They're trying to get you to go as far across the board as possible because they want you to spend your money so that they can take advantage later. So I would no way in any shape or form, unless it was deep in the draft and I had a bunch of money, when I spend $22 on Pitts. Now this is Dalvin Cook. This is another example. His average salary is $65. Now look, someone already had jumped it up there. So from here going forward, if you just hear me say projected, that's what they project him to go for. And if you just hear me say average, that's what he's averaging out. So projected's 57, average is 65. The average is higher because he's one of the first guys that gets nominated. When they project these, it's before a draft ever starts to say, well, this is what a guy should go for. This is what he's worth. But they go up the earlier. They go down deep. The longer you go into a draft, you can get like the Darrell Henderson that just went. You can get him for much cheaper later in the draft. So that's the game that's being played right now. My nomination is coming up on the next one. Zeke Elliott was drafted for $55. That's not terrible. That's about where you would want it to be. But honestly, it's a little too early for me to go in like that. Now, Devontae Adams, projected 53, average 53. He already jumped up to 54. I'm not going to overpay for a guy, period. I'm just not going to do it. The only time you ever would overpay for a guy is if you realize that you've really screwed up and it's time to get an elite guy on your team. Now, here's the theory that a lot of people have. Some people's theory is you sit back, you let everyone spend their money, and then you can cherry pick. The problem with that is, and I'm going to go ahead. Now I'm going to go ahead and nominate a guy that I'm not that big on, but I think other people are. Antonio Gibson. I'll go ahead and put him in there, and we'll see where this goes. His average is 43. His projected is 43. So he already jumps up to 46. So somebody's already paying way too much for this guy across the board. It's way too much. And there's really no reason in it. I'm going to try to extend this and see what it looks like to try to make the view a little better for y'all, so that you can see all the people in the draft. So that's everyone in the draft. That's all 10 teams. Here comes Kamara, 55 and 62. So that's your projected 55, average is 62. He's already going to hit that. With this one here, I'm going to do a little bit of both. I'm going to go get an elite player here in a minute, just so y'all can see what that looks like. And then I'm going to sit back and try to drive the price up so you can see what that looks like. So that's what we're looking at with this. I'm going to try to condense the top of this screen just a little bit so that we can see all the players. Remember something about YouTube that I think a lot of people forget about. You can cast this to a television, so you can see it on a much bigger screen. And when we do the show tomorrow night for the fantasy draft, and this is a draft, I believe there's 10 of us in this league. We're just going to open up the room, and whoever wants to join in can join in and talk and shoot the bull. I am going to kind of warn everybody there to keep the language pretty clean, but at the same token, if you're listening in, it's not going to be above board. This is a fantasy draft. There is a lot of ribbing. All right. Projected salary for Chubb is 54, average of 57. He just went for 58, a little high. But if you punt, if you just don't go for any of these guys, then essentially you're not going to have a first round draft pick. Okay. So for argument's sakes, I'm going to go ahead and start earmarking a couple of guys to see. I want to get someone towards the end of the first round in a typical draft. That's what I'm going to shoot for. So all of these guys there's no one who's elite anymore. There's no one who's sitting there that you're like, man, that guy would go in the top 5. So Barkley is a perfect example. He's going for 54. His average is 57. His projected is 52. I think that's a little too high. The guy's coming off a major injury. Let someone else blow their wad on a guy who has a reconstructed leg. Okay. Let's let someone else worry about that. I'm going to try to get on a guy that is more likely to stand up for the test of the entire season. We don't even know if Barkley's going to play in the first week. So you got to factor that in. When you're looking at, you've got to factor this in, because this isn't like a normal draft where you can say, well, I'll draft him early and then as it comes around to my pick, then I'll make up for it. You're going to have to outbid people. Now, Julio projected 22, average 13. He's already up to 26. Someone's lost their brain in here. See what Brian has to say here. I do all on my phone. Okay, whatever. Loves Gibson. He's a PPR beast. Please join us. I'm in the league. Lego. I don't know what Lego means, but whatever. Lego my ego. But we're looking at Julio Jones here. He just went for $25. That is way too high for Julio Jones. He's the number 2 receiver, and he's battling an injury. I think he'll probably be ready for the beginning of the season. It's not really the point. The point is the dude has got way too many question marks. He's going to a new offense. Now, Aaron Jones, this is an interesting one. 54 and 54 are his numbers, projected and average. So I'm going to go and throw 49 and see where this goes. I'm willing to pay around what he's worth, but not much higher. I'll go one more. I'll go to 56, but if someone outbids me here at 56, I'm not going to go to, okay, so see, now this guy's overplayed his hand. He's gone to 62. I'm not going to go to $63 for a guy that's almost $10 over his average and projected. That's way too high. I figure I can get a little more value for guys who are, if I'm looking at running backs, let's look at running backs real quick. Josh Taylor. His numbers are 50 and 54. Eckler, projected 48, average 46. Mixon, 43 and 38. Najee Harris, 40 and 40. You've got a lot of guys that you can build with that you don't have to go bananas over. Tyreek Hill now, his projected is 52, average is 55. I'm going to drive the price up to make sure he at least goes. I mean, some of these are a little ridiculous. So I'll go ahead and put 40 up there so we can get to it. I'm willing to go around 50 for Tyreek Hill. I don't like spending a ridiculous amount of money on receivers early in the draft, but if he's affordable and I feel like I got a good value, okay, I'll grab him, but I'm not going to go nuts with him. Now this is going to start taking it into the next guy that bids takes it to 52. His average and projected are still sitting right there. Now, I could probably sneak in and grab him, but there's a couple other receivers that I like just as much, so I figure I can get cheaper. And what I did there, when this guy here goes out and gets, well, I guess I got the wrong guy. See who actually took him. Jacob took him. So when this guy goes out and gets let me see here. Jacob got Tyreek Hill. That's his first player. So that's really not that big of a deal to him. But I'm looking at when you can get a guy, if you get a team out there that goes all in on 3 players, and you could realistically do it, go all in on 3 really big names, but then the rest of your team is going to be trash. And so you've got to look at that. Is that worth it? Do I have enough guys that I think that I can get later in the draft and try to cherry pick that way? There is the strategy of going all in and then beginning and then holding back and hoping for everyone to blow their load, so to speak, and you go to try to cherry pick at the very, very end. But that's a dicey situation because normally at the very, very end, there's nothing available. I'm not going 55 for Jonathan Taylor. Let's see. Oh, he was trying to say let's go, but he spelled Lego. Whatever, man. I can't understand Miami Hurricane fans. That's the problem. At some point, you all need to go back to school. Every damn one of you. All right, it's my turn to nominate. I'm going to go ahead and get someone out there that a lot of people are going to be jumping all over. Najee Harris, the rookie from Alabama. Everyone remembers him being big time in Alabama. My question mark with him is he is in a situation where he's going to be working with a very, very bad offensive line. They were last year. I can't imagine they're going to go leaps and bounds. Now his average is 40 and 41. He's already 10 points above all of that. $10 above where he should go. That's ridiculous for a rookie. But these are people who are in love with them that are thinking maybe they're in a full point PPR and they think he's going to be highly involved in the passing game. Okay, I get it. In most of our leagues, we do half point PPR because I think that's the real. That's where everyone has gone over the last 5 years. It's evolved to the half point PPR. When it first came out, everyone jumped in on the fad and wanted to do a full point PPR. And then they started realizing how ridiculous a full point PPR is. And so most of your leagues that are even the terrible ESPN finally caught up to speed like 3 years ago and started making their rankings default on a half point PPR. All right, Austin Eckler now. He is going. So his project is 48 and 47. He went at 49. That's not terrible, but there's a couple of others that I think I can get much cheaper. So that's what I'm looking at. Now here comes DeAndre Hopkins. 43 and 42 is what he's expected. Now, the one thing you don't want to do is let him go really, really cheap because you're not paying attention. So we're going to go ahead and get him up there and get him up to at least 35. And then go from there. I don't think I'm going to go all in. Now, see, this knucklehead here went 48 bucks on him. I hope he gets him because look at the team: Henderson, Kamara, Barkley, and then you're gonna. Okay, so now he's got now he's got Hopkins. Okay, it's a pretty good team to start off with, but they're also flat broke now. absolutely flat broke. So Calvin Ridley comes up. His average is 46 and 38. I'd probably be a little more aggressive if we weren't doing the show live right now, but we're going to go ahead and start trying to get someone in this range. I like this range. There's another guy that I'm going to look at. I don't think I'll end it with Ridley because I think he's going to go way too expensive, but looking at if I can get him in the 30s, then you got to take him, right? But if he ends up well over 40, that's where I have to pull my limit because the guy is going in to an unknown situation. He's never been a number one receiver ever. Now, I'm not going to go to 40, and it looks like it's just me and this other guy, Jacob, who are fighting over him. Let someone else have him. And this idiot comes back in 47. Love of God, let him have him. There's no way I'm paying that much for Ridley. 46 is what he went with. Not when you have all these other players on the board. If he was like the last really good receiver, then okay, you might have to overpay. Pat Mahomes. I was just about to say, let's see who overpays for him. Bam, we've already got a winner because he's going 35. His projected was 36, average 35. That is too high. Don't pay that much for a quarterback. You're going to cripple your team. So he's off the board. And with all that being said, with him being off the board, we can now focus on the other quarterbacks that will start coming up and dropping out. Now, waiting for the next pick, where I'm looking at here to try to get one of my first picks is going to be somewhere in this range. I want one of these guys because I don't want a complete team full of bozos. Joe Mixon is a good one to try. Depending on how in love they are with him, you can run that price up. But if people are not willing to pay a high price, this is how I look at it. I'm willing to pay a price for a guy that I expect to be late second, early third round. But you're not going to get me to pay into the 40s because that is a high second round pick. And that's a little absurd at this point. Now I'm bidding against this Jacob cat and he keeps going up a buck. Eventually either I'm getting stuck with him or he's getting stuck with him. I'm going up one more dollar here. If he outbids me on that, I think I'm gonna go ahead and let him have him because there are Chris Carson, there's David Montgomery, there's J.K. Dobbins, there's a lot of running backs. By the way, James Robinson has been shooting up the board the last several days. I mean, absolutely shooting up the board. And I really hope this Jacob kid ends up getting him because if he gets him, he's going to be out of my way in the bidding because, and he did get him. So he's got $55 left. He's got 12 spots to fill, an average of $5 a pop, and his max offer is now 44. But if he goes 44 on someone, when you do your max offer and realize something, if you're new to fantasy sports, especially fantasy auction, if you're trying to do the math in your head, realize you have to have $1 for every single player left. So if you have $50 left and you have 10 spots available, don't think you've got 50 to bid because they're going to take into consideration all the other 9 guys on your roster. So they're immediately going to take that off the board. I'm going after Justin Jefferson, but honestly, he's going a little too high. He's at 43 right now. If I want him, that's still just a tad too high. There's still some really good receivers there. And I think that I can, I haven't been meaning to sit back and cherry pick. I wanted to get some elite players early, but they're paying way too high, which can only pay dividends for me later. Now here comes DK Metcalf. He's another big name. He's a flashy name. Everyone likes to run to him because any guy who's had a big moment on the highlight reel, we've all seen him run down the defensive back from Arizona. Anyone that does that, they get overvalued. And DK Metcalf right now is about to go for $42. His average is 36 and 36. That's way too high. So wasn't intentional, but it looks like what we're going to end up seeing here is I'm going to end up being the guy that ends up being able to cherry pick at the end. And you can see what that team looks like. AJ Brown sitting here. He's a little banged up. Now, I'm not concerned about him long term. His average is 40, 36, and 36. He's going way too high. These teams are overbidding for each other, which means that in the end, I'll just be able to grab guys. There's a part of me that hates that because I hate not having elite players. But then there's also something very satisfying knowing that you can have a very, very deep roster. And you'll be able to absorb an injury a lot easier than somebody else. So it's now coming to the guy who was right before, who nominates right before me. So depending on who he nominates, I'm going to look at the next guy available. Now, look, this guy did a mock draft, and all he cared about was getting a few players. By the way, Waller's average is 36 and 27. He's averaging 26. His projected is his average is 27. His projected is 36. Now, this clown just offered $42 for him. That's absurd. But this guy here that was, when you're going into a mock draft and this is all you're worried about looking at doing, and then you see how they've dipped out, that you've done nothing. Stay till the end of your mock draft because you're not learning a damn thing. All right, it's my turn to nominate someone. Let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and put CD Lamb up here. Look, he's in the COVID-19 protocol. Will that make people gun shy or will they overpay? They've already overpaid. His average salary is $20. His projected was 36. Someone has offered 37. Let him have him. Now, I would have thought that he probably would have. By the way, I do know we have a couple of stations that are carrying us live this morning. Just go ahead and go to break. I'm not taking a commercial break because of the way we're set up today. So go ahead and do that, and we'll just come back and people will know what's going on. Allen Robinson, he's going for 35. His projected is 36. His average is 26. That has to do with how later he's been nominated in most drafts. Now, at some point, I've got to grab a guy, but I don't want to spend $35 on Allen Robinson. Not if Andy Dalton's going to be his quarterback for like the first month of the season. Kiss my ass when it comes to Andy Dalton. I mean, what the heck? They've named him the starting quarterback? Nagy, what you did is you just named a new head coach. That's what you've done. Josh Jacobs is coming in here at $22. Projected 23 average. I'm not a fan of Josh Jacobs. I saw him fall apart last year. And I just, with Drake coming in from Arizona, look, I don't think he'll have as bad a year as he did last year. But I'm not in love with him, not to spend that much. Now, here's an interesting one. CEH, who's up on a lot of people's boards pretty high. He's going at 25. The projected's 36 and average 34. That is something I might be willing to pay for because I don't have someone. But I'll be honest with you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see this will be my last bid for him at 28. I don't mind someone else sniping him at 29 because there's a couple of more reliable running backs I would probably rather have. And so let this guy have him because I've got David Montgomery, Chris Carson, and J.K. Dobbins and James Robinson all sitting right there. Those are the ones that I'm more likely to go in on as it comes up because their projected and averages are much lower, and I can get 3 of them as opposed to just being able to get 2. And that's how I look at that. I'm going to have a much better flex than my opponents. They're going to have the elites. I'm not going to have Kamara. I'm not going to have CMC, et cetera, et cetera. But I think I'll have a much better flex. And if you play your cards right, you can definitely end up having a better roster across the board. All right. the next nomination's coming up, and this guy, he's got 123 left. He's already spent what he spent. He's got 2 guys on his roster. Okay. So you see the 123, he's got 2 of 15 on his roster. Here comes Mike Evans in the 30. I think he's trying to get someone to buy a player he doesn't want. So I think that was his strategy. You notice he nominated him for $1. His average was 19. His projected's 30. He didn't want him that much because it immediately jumped to 30, and now he's sitting back and waiting. If I'm reading this right, I think this guy right here, Steven, is trying to wait me out to see how many good players get popped up there, and can he wait me out and try to cherry pick later? What does his team look like? He's got Devontae Adams and Kyle Pitts. A pretty good start, but he overpaid. Remember, he overpaid for Kyle Pitts, which is going to affect him immensely. I don't have what he paid. He paid $22 for him. So he overpaid for him. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put an offer in here on Carson. His 22 and 10 is his average salary. It's going a little higher. But I'm going to go ahead and try to grab him at 24. If he goes much higher than that, I can punt him for someone else. And so I'll go ahead and let this guy have him because there's still a couple of running backs that Chris Carson has concerned the hell out of me. He really has. He has concerned the hell out of me. And I see Brian talking about James Robinson, that he loves it. The problem with him is, Brian, he's shooting up the draft boards because of the injury. So today I say I really like where he's going. But by tomorrow or by Sunday, man, he might be because there's a market overcorrection a lot of times. All right, Montgomery right now, his average is 25 on the average salary, projected's 35. So I'm willing to spend even more than this. And I've got 23 invested in him. That would be a good price if no one else goes up with him. Now, I believe Steven's trying to get me to pay a little more, but I'm looking at it. He doesn't have a running back, so he might sincerely want this running back. So those are the games that are played as well. He's at 27. It's a little high, but I'm going to go ahead and push the envelope because I do not have a running back. And when it's all said and done, I'd rather have an elite running back. 29 for David Montgomery might be a little high. I'll do it because I have no one, but I'm not going any higher because if he goes 30, I'm not going 31. There's no way in hell I'm going 31 on David Montgomery when there's a lot of other players. So that's my first player taken. I paid a little more, but not much more. His projected was 35, so I paid much lower than that. But his average is 25 because he's been going very late in drafts. Okay, being nominated late in drafts is where I'm getting at. I don't like going over the projected. I don't mind going over the average because that's a loaded question. So McLaurin's 36 and 27. I'm not going to let him go that cheap. So we got to at least run the price up a little bit there. We can't let him have him for just nothing. And I'm sure someone is going to run the score up here. So 22. I'll pay for 22. I think McLaurin should be a really good player, but there's some other receivers still sitting there. And so if he goes out and gets a McLaurin I'm going to make him pay 25. I'm not going past the 25 mark. I'm going to make him go 25. If I get him for 24, I'm okay with that. Let Steven have him for 25 because then that just opens up a lot of receivers for me. That means that I can start grabbing. Look, Keenan Allen is still there. Okay. Godwin is a solid. Woods is solid. Amari Cooper is solid. Tyler Lockett, DJ Moore, all these receivers are still there. There's not that big of a discrepancy between the two. So here we go. Here comes Keenan Allen. He's 36 and 26. 36 and 26 are his averages. I'm going to say the projected first, and I'm going to say the average second. That's going to save us a lot of time. So projected 36, average 26. Right now, I've got him at 23. I'm looking at this as if I can get him for somewhere in between the average and the projected, I'm okay with that. Now, what Steven's trying to do, he's trying to lock up his flex, or he might just be trying to run my money up. Now, if he tries to run my money up too much and he gets caught, I could just sit back, let him pay, and I'm going to let him do that because now he's going to have very little money to grab at running backs. And it was pretty much just he and I going back and forth. So I'll let him have him. So now he's going, crap, I thought I could push him up to 30 because there's no way a guy's going receiver, tight end, receiver, ignoring his running backs. At this point, he knows that he stepped in the mess kit. He knows. And unless he randomly has found our show on YouTube Live, he has no idea what was in my mind, which was I'll push it up a little, but I'm not going to take it so high to the point where I get stuck paying more. And here comes Dobbins. He's going to have very little money to be able to compete for Dobbins. And so his averages are 33 and 30. I'm going to look at this. What is his, the max offer for this guy is still 61. So it's still pretty high. So I don't mind paying 26 for Dobbins. Much higher than 30, I would be very, very skeptical of. So here comes Dobbins looking at all the other running backs. Let me see here. I'm going to run him up one more dollar at 30. I think I'll get him at 30. If I don't get him, there's a lot of other running backs sitting there, but I don't think he's going to go 31. No, he did go 31. Okay. So I'm going to let him have him because when it comes back around, he's going to have very little money to play with, and I'll be able to outbid him across the board. Now we look at Steven's team, and he finally has a running back. His max offer now is 31. So I know that that's the number to beat on anyone that I realistically want. Now I'm going to go ahead and send someone out there that I'm not a big fan of, and I'm going to let someone else spend some money on him. And I'm going to say, look, go out there, you grab him. Now, if you look at my team right now, the only guy that I have is David Montgomery. I don't want Miles Sanders. His averages are 23 and 20. Now, I'm not going to let him go for this low. I mean, that's a little absurd. When I have that much money to play with, I'm not going to let him go so damn low that a team that's already loaded with prospects is going to grab him. He's going to go somewhere where he's actually warranted. Somewhere between 15 and 20 is where I'll dip out. I've paid 15 for him. Someone moves him up 17. I'm not that. I'll go one more time and make someone have to pay at least 18 for him. Jacob's going to pay 19. That's going to ruin Jacob. I'm going to go and let him have him. So I really don't want him. I'd much rather have Swift or Robinson or Davis. Now that Damian Harris is by himself in New England, essentially, I'm much bigger on him now. Myles Gaskin's a good get. Javonte Williams should be an interesting play. You got a lot of running backs that are still available. So here we go, Chris Godwin. I'm staying away from Tom Brady receivers. I just am this year. I think they're going to play the long game. This team just won the Super Bowl. That's all they care about now is to get back and win that Super Bowl. And if you think they're just going to light it up left and right, that's not a Tom Brady style offense. There's going to be weeks where they'll win the ugly 19-7 game. They'll be happy as hell they won, and you're going to be screaming bloody murder because they didn't score a single touchdown. Or they scored maybe one, and it was some off tackle run. Now, Colin Murray's going way too low there. I don't want to overpay for him. His averages are 22 and 12. Mike Davis, Brian, I'll be honest with you. I think he's a solid get. I think he's a guy that is a little underrated, but I kind of understand why, or undervalued. I kind of understand why. It's the concern that they're going to have to throw the ball so much that he won't be as big of a factor. But remember, he catches out of the backfield. I think he's a very solid running back. I think he works perfectly in that system. What I think people are worried about is he going to be the guy that turns into another Todd Gurley, comes over to Atlanta and just disappears? I don't think he is. I still think he's got a lot left in his tank. James Robinson is 33. His average salary is $6. Why is it $6? Because he just recently got the starting job in Jacksonville. So he's going to be underscored. Now, I just got him for $10. And this is my point. Guys like this, the Stevens and the Anthonys, I'm looking at the ones who have been in the draft the whole time. I'm going to be able to outbid them. Now, Josh Allen, I've been on record. I think he's the best quarterback in fantasy. His averages are 29 and 20. I'm not paying that much, but I'm not going to let someone else have him for just garbage either. So I'm going to run his numbers up as well. I'm going to start trying to get these things up a little higher because we are going to end up running out of time if I don't start filling some roster spots. But all in all, I don't mind paying $15 for Josh Allen. I paid $15 for Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes went for what was it, $35, $36, $34, whatever it was. Someone paid over 2 times of what I paid for Josh Allen. That's stupid. They're not going to outscore each other by much. And Josh Allen, hell, he might outscore. He very well could outscore Mahomes. They have no running game. Of course, they're going to chuck it around. So we're waiting for the next nomination. It's Kittle. See what the best tight ends available or left. Kittle, and then it's Andrews, and then Hawkinson. Now, Kittle's average is 28 and 27. My team looks like this. I've got Josh Allen, James Robinson, and David Montgomery. So I don't have any number ones, but that's okay because I've got a pretty good team across the board. I just got George Kittle for $9. George Kittle's going for $9, and the other guy paid over $24 for Kyle Pitts. So this is what you can do if you do hold back. Now, like tomorrow night's draft's a little different because most of those guys have played in a lot of these leagues, and they know all of our strategies. So it's much more of a chess game. And you're not going to hear us explaining it. We're just going to be doing it. We're just going to be reacting to who everyone's drafting. But we're not going to be out here, going, I'm going to do this. No, you're not going to get that tomorrow night. That's why I did this today. Swift, I just got DeAndre Swift for $11. That's a pretty good receiving core. Running back core. If I'm sitting there and I've got Allen as my quarterback, Kittle as my tight end, and then this is my Montgomery, Robbins, Swift. Those are my running backs and my flex. That's pretty good. Cup is 25 and 11. I'm willing to go 10 for Cup, not much more. There's other guys I would much rather have. And in fact, I'll probably be nominating him next if he's not nominated before, because if I get stuck with Cup, I better go get Robert Woods. One of those two guys is going to be Stafford's favorite. And in this situation, you can go get both. Now, Mark Andrews comes out on the board. I'm not going to waste my money on him unless he starts going really low. That's about where he's averaging. I'm going to grab him at 10 and see if anyone pays more than that. If I get him, I now have the two of the top 5 tight ends in the NFL, which I got him. The great news about that is I can either put him in my flex or I could have worked that for a trade later on. So that's why I like that a lot. My next big focus would be to get a wide receiver, though, another wide receiver. Actually, 2 more wide receivers. I'm willing to pay pretty good money for 2 more wide receivers. And I'm not going to do the same thing with Lamar Jackson. You can't have every player. That gets tempting. You start going, man, look how cheap he's going to go for. But do I need Lamar Jackson and guys like that. So I'm going to go ahead and throw out a guy that I think is a little overrated, Brandon Ayuk. I'll see where he goes. He's averaging 6, but he's projected at 23. Now, I would pay the 6 range. I'm not going to pay the 23 range. So if someone starts climbing up like that, let him get stuck with them. Chris right here, I'm going to outbid him on that. I mean, I'm not going to let him have him that cheap. $6, $7. I could even go to 8 or 9 for Ayuk. He should be a decent receiver, but I just grabbed him for $7 and I'm not planning on him being my starter. But what I do have is my entire team filled out. I'm going to go get a better receiver than this. That is for sure. Amari Cooper, his averages are 24 and 13. Amari Cooper's a guy that I would pay premium price for. Robert Woods, Tyler Lockett, DJ Moore, Adam Thielen, they're all still there. And Cooper, now it really comes down to now I have to look at how is this draft going, who has money left, and who's going to be willing to spend it. I can get Amari Cooper for $12, I believe. That's a pretty good get. He was Dak Prescott's favorite guy the entire time. Now, Steven is sitting here trying to snipe him. His max offer would go down immensely, and I'm going to go ahead and let him have him because there's other receivers that I would like to have, and I don't mind giving up Amari Cooper. And so that way I'm still big dog on the board as far as money available, and I've got more of my positions filled out. Here comes Odell Beckham Jr. He's a name alone. I would pay $5 and that's it. If someone wants to outbid me, fine. But this guy's going to be sitting deep on my bench. But for $5, you can't beat that, and I'll show you why later. I'm going to have extra money to play with. So I get him for $5. Let's see who goes next. Looking at my team right now, I now have Beckham and Andrews on my bench. I've got a pretty solid bench, but I do need a bigger receiver name. I told you I was going to go all in and grab Woods. Woods will be a guy that I'm willing to pay the premium price because I got stuck with Kupp. I'm not that big of a Kupp fan. I think he's good, but I think he's overvalued. But if I get Woods and Kupp, then I know by a couple of weeks into the season who to start. And in a really good matchup, I can put them both in. I can have Woods and Kupp in there. Ayuk's not going to be starting for me in most weeks. But we'll see. He might. I would still like to get one more really good receiver and one more really good running back. And then I would feel really good about my team. Here comes the ultimate. Don't bid on a kicker. I'm glad this popped up. Do not bid on a kicker. You don't need to pay more than $1 for a kicker. This guy's just grabbing a kicker to have a kicker. He goes, screw it. I'm going to get my kicker. I'll be done with it. Don't fall for that trick of, man, look, I don't know, man. That might be worth having a New England kicker. I'll spend $2. You spend $2 on a kicker, you spent too many. Spend way too much. And it's not a bad strategy to go out there and throw a kicker up there at the beginning. I just don't typically do it because anyone who's played for any length of time, they already know, man. They already know this trick. So what the hell? I can wait on a kicker, but it is what it is down the stretch. If you want to pay extra for a kicker, by all means. Now, Hawkinson's going there. He's 22 and 10 are his averages. I would not let him go that low, but I can't use 3 tight ends. I mean, that's just stupid. You can't have that many tight ends. I guess you could because you do have the flex and you could start 2 of the 3 each week. What a nightmare would that be trying to figure out the best tight end? Because at that point, you better be getting premium price. Now, here comes Mike Davis. His averages is 21 and 7. And so I'll be willing to pay. I'd be willing to go considering where I'm at and what is my max offer is 80. My average offer is 17. I'd be willing to go even higher than that. I got him for $6. So I think that's a pretty good team. Brian says he has Davis, Gibson, Cook, and Robinson in his dynasty league. Hey, you got to love that, Brian. You got to love that. If you can keep all four of those, that's a get. I would love to do a real full dynasty football league, but I was afraid that I put that I had too many guys in all these other leagues that they didn't want to play another league. But I would love to do one where you keep like 10. That would be a lot of fun with like different rules on who you can keep and who you can't keep. That would be a lot of fun. So if there is interest from that, we'll talk to people over the next few days. If we can get a keeper dynasty league like that, I would love that in football. We never did it in one of the ones. It's the closest thing we have. It's a 2-4 because we didn't want to ruin the draft. But now that we have so many different kinds of leagues, I would love to do one of those, because then you would be talking about, you got plenty of other drafts you can do. Takes a different league. Okay, so here we go. DJ Moore his average is 23-9. Not going to let him go that cheap. Now I've got 12 of my 15 players taken so far. I'm going to get DJ Moore up there. I've got 3 wide receivers on my bench. I've got 4 total running backs. It's pretty good. I'm probably going to let DJ Moore go because I don't want to make a hasty decision. There's still some pretty good running backs there. And to be honest with you, I would rather have another running back, considering how my team is set up. I've got 2 receivers, 3, 4. I've got 5 receivers. That's pretty good. So I think I want to go running back, and I don't believe I'm going to let someone get Harris as cheap. But I do have a couple other guys that are earmarked. But Harris, it's pretty. I guess I will get Harris. That's pretty good. And so now I can go in here. I've only got 2 picks left. So I can go in here and grab my defense. I can grab whatever the hell defense I want. And we'll just go ahead and put the Washington football team in there and throw them in there. I can be able to outbid anybody. I want to see how much they'll go for, how many teams are going to bid it. I could have went in there, just put a big chunk down and be done with it. But if someone else bids a kicker here in a second, I will definitely outbid them there, because I have 1 slot left. If they bid a kicker, I'm just going to do it so I can end our draft. But now we can start looking at other teams. Okay, this guy Neil, he still has 10 guys to fill out. His average offer is $1. His max offer is $2. It eventually turns into a draft. So if people have never done this before, like, well, what happens when everyone runs out of money? When everyone gets down to $1 and no one can outbid each other, it's literally a draft. And it's bing, 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 bing. It's done in like a matter of seconds. People just grab and go, grab and go, grab and go. Dak Prescott. The one thing that I would say on this team that I probably should have done is went out there and got an extra quarterback. But man, Josh Allen, I'll be honest with you, that dude's going to start every single week. Remember earlier, I could have grabbed Lamar Jackson. I could have been loaded at quarterback, but I'm probably going to start Josh Allen every week. If this team were real, I would start Josh Allen every single week. And then if it gets any other way across the board, I can just kind of look at it and go, it is what it is. I'll just stream whoever the hell I want to stream. And if Josh Allen goes down, I'm screwed. So it is. I'd much rather have depth in all my other positions than worry about the quarterback. The quarterback is the position where you're like, look, dude, I do not need to be loaded at that point. I'm going to go ahead and pull this like this, because we're going to start looking at some of the other teams real quick while we have a few more minutes left. So let's go team by team. This team has, I'm going to show you what I mean by this. Max offer $1, average offer $1. He's got 3 elites and he has nothing left on his team. The rest of his team is going to be trash. Steven, he did a pretty good job. McLaurin, Adams, Dobbins, Pitts, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper. I like that team. And then he'll be able to get a very good he will be able to get a very good quarterback at some point. Okay. The next guy, Logan Thomas is being put up there. I actually like Logan Thomas quite a bit this year. I mean, I'm not going to go crazy, but I'm talking about where he is compared to other guys. I like him. I like him more than I like Hunter Henry. I'll put it that way. Hunter Henry's now, if you want to see all the different, I did do's and don'ts yesterday, 4 videos. 2 have been released on YouTube. 2 will be released today at 11:30 and noon Eastern. But it's the quarterback, it's the running back, it's the tight end, and it's the wide receivers. So 2 are out. I believe it's the quarterback and running back that have been released. And then the other 2 are coming up at lunchtime. I explain why you don't want to draft certain guys and why you do want to draft certain guys. And I'm talking mainly about where they're going. Not that the player himself is terrible. It has to do with, I don't want to go out and grab someone who isn't worth their value. Now, T. Higgins to me is pretty interesting. He is going, what's his average here? We'll go and stretch this out a little bit. 3.8 and 18 is projected, but these projections get very, very skewed towards the end. So you can't look at this as much as you want to look at this. The average salary is the one that I want to look at. It's not the projected. When you get midway through the draft, at the beginning of the draft, to me, I look at the projected because that's where you can base off what he's really worth. When you get to the end of the draft, you can base how good of a guy you got by the projected. You can't go by the average when everyone's got like a buck left in their pocket. All right, Chase Edmonds, this is an interesting guy. Looks like he's going to go for about $7. I mean, he's not a bet. I will say this: if I have Chase Edmonds, I am definitely handcuffing James Conner. My concern with Edmonds is I do believe he's the number 1. Does James Conner end up getting the goal line carries? Because that could be an issue. That could be a big issue. Trey Sermon, this is another one that a lot of people are in love with. They expect him to take over the starting role. I'll just say this, based on what? Raheem Mostert has always done a very good job. All right, so it comes to me. I'm going to go ahead and grab a kicker because that's all I have left on my team. And you'll notice I have I've got $61 to put a kicker on. Let me grab a kicker. Sorry. Justin Tucker's available. And so I can just put him up for like $20, throw everything off. No one else has $20, and that's who I ended up with. That's the most you'll ever see me pay for a kicker. But my team looks like this. I have Justin Tucker in Washington. Those are the 2 that you can't see on the screen. And then this is what it looks like. I got Josh Allen, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, and you might be like, I don't like your receivers. I got much more depth down later because OBJ was $5. I grabbed him. Robert Woods, Tyler Lockett. Those are probably between those 2 and Cooper Kupp. Those are probably along with Brandon Ayuk because Brandon Ayuk does have a big upside. Those are the 4 guys I would be rotating in and out at receiver. I don't worry about what I do with them as far as needing a flex because I've got Kittle. I've got a stable of running backs in Damian Harris, Mike Davis, and then, of course, my starters in David Montgomery and James Robinson. And I can, in my flex, I could slide Mark Andrews in my flex if I want to. That'll come down. Now, at that point, you're going to have to be looking at your matchups and know what you're doing on your matchups. The guys that go out and grab like 3 or 4 guys at the beginning, we'll take this Neal guy for an example. He's got very little money left. He's got Mahomes way overpaid for him. What did he pay for? $34. He got him for $34. I got Josh Allen for $15. AJ Brown, $41. I felt like that was an overpay. CeeDee Lamb, $37. Nick Chubb, 58. At that point, he was broke. He ends up paying 19 for Miles Sanders. I could have outbid him there, but honestly, I've got a lot of reservation. When they start talking about Miles Sanders is going to split time with Boston Scott, that worries the hell out of me. That really does worry the hell out of me, because all I can think of is, how the hell is Boston Scott going? So what now? I got to handcuff him. I got to handcuff Boston Scott, a guy that looked nothing against him. I love watching the guy play. Big fan of him as a player in general. But from a fantasy standpoint, I've got to handcuff a guy that if he does get the starting role because of injury, what's he worth? 8 points a week, maybe? Ugh, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want anything to do with that. So that's my concern with that. Looking at the players that are still around, Russell Wilson, you look at his projected salary. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, it moved on me. Russell, 16-7. I like Russell Wilson this year. I think he can be a very good player. Jerry Jeudy, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm less enthusiastic on my Denver Broncos when I saw the news that Teddy Bridgewater is the starter in Denver. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I'm pulling for Teddy Bridgewater as a player, as a person. But Teddy Bridgewater is fantasy prison. If he is the quarterback on your team that has your receiver, there's not good things that's going to happen. If he was that exciting, the Saints would have kept him. They had an opportunity to re-sign him. They did not, because they knew they'd rather have Jameis Winston slinging it. That's another guy, by the way, that I believe is going to start rocketing up the boards. As soon as he gets officially announced, Jameis Winston is going to rocket up the boards. Right now, everyone's scared to draft him. There's no way Taysom Hill is the damn starter in New Orleans. If he is, then I'm going to call collusion, because you don't start Taysom Hill after what I saw Monday night against the Jaguars. Jameis Winston is the best quarterback on that team, and it's not even close. I'd be more of a question mark on whether or not Taysom Hill's my number 2. He's really a guy you just put in there. You call him your backup quarterback, but you're going to go, he's going to be used for other things, y'all. And I hope they get that debacle straightened out, by the way, with the whole Taysom Hill. Remember when ESPN screwed the whole thing up and they put him eligible at tight end, and then he went to starting quarterback, and then they took him out of eligibility, which was total crap by ESPN. Another reason why I will not play ESPN unless I'm absolutely forced to by a terrible commissioner. I'm out of that league finally, and I can't tell you how bad that commissioner was at all things. And I'm so glad to be out of that league, because I don't have to look at ESPN rankings. They're terrible. And what they did with Taysom Hill was a travesty. People that had him on his roster, they went out and they went out and grabbed Taysom Hill on the waiver wire and spent their fab budget. And then ESPN pulled the okie doke, reversed it, and said, I know we said we're going to make him eligible at tight end, but we're not going to make him eligible at tight end. Because for people that are wondering why that was such a big deal, people raced out there through their fab budget at Taysom Hill to be able to slide a quarterback into their tight end spot. You get quarterback points sitting at the tight end spot. So you see why it was a huge advantage, and it was. And some could say it was an unfair advantage. But that's the way they set it up. And when they set it up, you've got to stick with this. And that's when you know you have terrible leadership. I'm not going to blame the guy who runs ESPN, right? I'm not going to blame the CEO of Disney over this. Whoever is in charge of making those decisions in their fantasy department did a terrible job that day, because they flip-flopped it back What about the people that blew their fab budget? If you don't have a fab budget, let's say you have a you wasted that spot in a pecking order on the waiver wire on the rolling list. That's horse crap. That is absolutely horse crap. You can't undo that. And so the people that got stuck with him, they just had to drop him, and it was garbage. It was garbage. They did it, and it was 1 week to the next. What that tells me is whoever runs the ESPN fantasy does not have a spine, because they got bullied into it, probably by all the yucks that are on their fantasy shows. And I'm going to be honest with you, I would love to come across a fantasy football show that I actually enjoy that isn't ours. But there's two now, essentially. There is the fantasy football show, whatever the hell they call it, the one with Matthew Berry that runs on the app because nobody watches it. And it's terrible with their goofy puppets, and he tries to be funny. Dude, I want to know who to start and why to start them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So don't tell me about your little stupid fart jokes and knock jokes. I don't care about that. And then the other one is on the NFL Network. It's shticky too. They've got a couple of guys who just get up there and they dance around. And can we get something on a major network in fantasy football that is strictly about why you want to do certain things, why you want to make, can we get one that just answers the questions? Who do I start and who do I bench? Well, they haven't come up with that, and that's why we do what we do. And this year, for people who might just now be tuning in and just finding us, it's going to be a 2-hour kickoff show on Sundays. We're going to do it's all going to be on YouTube, on this channel. We're going to do 2-hour kickoff, and it's going to be fantasy football, and it's going to be picks against the spread. 62% win rate against the spread. You cannot beat that. Go ahead and try and find it. Over 6 years, we had 62% of the spread. That's unheard of. Okay. And so, but from 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern, so it gives you an hour to absorb with what we said and then go and say, all right, it's time for me to make my picks. I know on that Fantasy Now show that they do in the mornings on ESPN, they will answer some stardom synonyms. We do 30, 45 minutes of that, and it ends up being damn near 100 questions every week. The people inbox us, or you can ask them to us live. You don't have to inbox us. You can do it the day of the show. But I don't understand why the fantasy football, as much as it is watched, as much as it is paid attention to, why we can't get better players. Better broadcasting shows that are on actual ESPN, NFL Network, et cetera, et cetera. I will say between the two, if I have to pick between the two, the NFL Network has the better one, but there's still that goofy where he gets up there and he dances around. Does, oh, are you on the hype train? It's all fluff. There's like, I every year I'll watch it, I record it, and then go back and hit the recording. It averages, I don't know, 7 to 10 minutes of actual content, and the rest is fluff. And that's what drives you up the wall. We'll go ahead and stop the share as we're going to wrap this up. We won't do turn back time and all that stuff today because today's focus was this, and just wanted to do this for y'all. For a lot of people who have never played the fantasy football, especially in the whole realm of the mock or the salary cap drafts, auction, whatever you want to call it. Different ones are calling it different things. I'm going to turn that light back on. I was having to stare at the screen right to my right, and it was blinding me. But if you have never played in a fantasy league, do yourself a favor. You can sign up with Yahoo for free. That's the one I'm going to push for you. CBS has a very good site as well. Problem is they charge an arm and a leg if you actually want to do things on there. Yahoo's free to do whatever you want to do as a commissioner. ESPN has them free too, but I'm telling you right now, if you're going to get used to a site, do Yahoo. ESPN is absolute trash. It is just, they're always, the way it's constructed, it's kind of hard to explain unless you've played them all. The way it's constructed, Yahoo's just much more fan friendly and for bang for your buck. CBS, I love the CBS ones, but I'm not going to pay a couple $100 to run a league when usually, hell, we have leagues where we're all just throwing $5 in to have fun. That's more than the league's worth. So insane to do that. And then NFL Network, they have the free ones too. I'm going to rank it as this. If you want to blow the money on it, CBS is obviously number one. But if you're looking at free ways to do it, you go Yahoo, and then NFL and ESPN are about even. They're both just not as good as Yahoo. Yahoo keeps you up to date on the news, everything, and it's much more interchangeable. But go out and sign up for a team. Get a free league. Just grab one. You can jump in one right now. You can just say, I just want to be in a league. And they'll put you in a draft in the next couple of minutes. It doesn't have to be one that you're invested with monetarily. If you want to have some real fun, you've got about 2 weeks from today is opening day for the NFL. Go out and sign up. Okay. Sign up your friends, get 8 to 10 of your buddies and say, do you want to do a fantasy football league? That's when they're the most fun, when you actually know the people you're in it. Now I'm in ones that the money is involved and I don't know the people, but it's still interesting because I want to kick their ass. So I've got one that I've been in for years. It's a big money one, but I've never had to pay in because I've always won. And they like trying to beat me, and I like being in the league. But if I ever get to the point where I have to start actually paying that entry fee, which is pretty steep, I would get the hell out of there because it's insane. But go in there and find someone in your friends, put $5-10 in it, man. Just have fun. Do it for free. If a bunch of your friends want to do it for free and just come up with a bragging right. The one the live draft we're doing Wednesday morning, this is what we're playing for, to put your name on that, to always be there. As long as we do these shows, this is going to be shown somewhere. I haven't reconstructed how it's going to look behind me, so it's been sitting on this table right here, but it's always going to be there. And then we're going to send a similar trophy to the winner. But like the one tomorrow night that's going to be on YouTube live, and we will do it live on YouTube. You can come in and join in. It's not going to be a bunch of strategy and breakdown. You just see what everyone's doing. We're going to react. So it's going to be a little looser of a show. So you got to understand that. Don't expect us to have segments and bits and all that kind of stuff. But the point is, tomorrow night is going to, I think there's 10 of us in there. We're just throwing 5 bones in and say, winner take all. Let's have fun. Because I mean, that's what it's about, man. This whole thing, it's a hobby. It's a hobby that can make you money if you take it seriously, but it's a hobby and it's supposed to be fun for the average Joe, whether he's a lawyer or whether he's working on roofs, if he's a janitor in a high school, if he's the high school principal or she. There's a lot of women that play this now, which I love to see because they get into it. They finally understand. All right, let's do this. We're all on the same level playing field, whether you're an ex-athlete or if you were in the chess club in high school. You're on the same playing field. It's all about what's up here. Have a great day, y'all. We will see you tomorrow for a normal show. We're going to do the Florida Gators at 8 a.m. with Tony. 8:30. We're going to be looking at the Tennessee Titans. We're going to be doing a lot of predictions, season-long predictions. And Matt Carr will be with us. He's going to give us out his college football predictions. And so we'll have a lot of fun with that. And then tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern p.m., 8:30 a.m. is our morning show. 8:30 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do the fantasy draft. And that should be a lot of fun. I'm glad to see fantasy season is finally here. It is the best time of year. Have a great day, y'all. and go out there and mock draft today, or just join a damn league. You know what? I'm finally going to play. Let's go. Let's see what all the excitement's about.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on these CBS Sports affiliates and catching the show on YouTube Live. We're here weekdays. Find Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live today. Please subscribe and share and take us everywhere you go. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for Southern sports talk, live from the First Coast.